Here we are circling over the planet Dune. Lower left is Moses Lake. The little line across it is I-90. And in the center of the screen is Potholes Reservoir, a very unlikely sea kayaking destination. We arrived at the park pretty bushed. We were still whooped from that beating we took on the return trip from Susha. You can see Lee still looks pretty tired. Here we are at Potholes State Park. The campsites at Potholes are really nice and spacious. They can take several vehicles and several tents. They're all pretty nicely set up. It's a very nice place to go. And here we are at night. We're kind of getting a battle plan together. We decided that our first day we would just kind of drive around and check out some launch points because we were both still pretty tired. Not as young as we used to was. Here's an old picture from the 2009 trip. We were right by the park paddling up the French Hills Wasteway. There's a really pretty trip going up there. Now here we are. This picture coming up is the exact same area at low water season. We just paddled right over that waterfall, so we're obviously not going to go up the French Hills Wasteway on this trip. It's a good thing we decided to scout around. During high water season, the water was up into the tallest brush. It was way up over there. Seasonal fluctuation is normal because this reservoir's function is for irrigation water. Pelicans overhead, man, you better cover yourself. These heavy bombers of the bird world make seagulls look like amateurs. It's like having a bucket of white paint come at you. Here's one from the old 2009 trip. We were up on an overlook over the western dune area, which is a fascinating place to kayak around out there. Now coming up is another picture taken from the same place on this trip. On low water season, there's nothing left but isolated pools that aren't even attached to the lake. It's a pretty amazing difference. Now, the pools get full of frogs and salamanders and who knows what else, and they attract birds. And the lush vegetation around the pools also attracts grazing animals and the predators that they attract. A lot of life in there. Here we are at the Job Corps Dike access, launching to go out to the western dunes. And it was a little bit different story at low water season. Here we are, definitely not launching at the Job Corps Dike area at low water season. This there was, like I say, there was nothing left but isolated little pools. This is the Crab Creek access area under the power lines, and there was no water in there either. We could have put in the creek, but it would have been too swift to get back up from the lake. Now, lots of snowy egrets around, poking around in the mud and stabbing little fish, and I think they're closely related to the blue herons. Herons and egrets are pretty closely related. Yeah, we kind of sat around camp and relaxed and got a plan together for the next day, and decided we were just going to put in right there at the park and paddle north up to the dunes, see what we could find. We took a little walk after dinner and had a really nice sagebrush sunset out over the sagebrush land right behind the park. There are lots of birds around the potholes all the time, and you see a lot of birds that you would normally associate with saltwater areas in Puget Sound. It's kind of interesting to see them all this far inland, you know, sandpipers or something. And of course there's always snowy egrets around. Those guys just seem to be everywhere. Really pretty bird. Very graceful. The little sulfur butterflies like to go around the reservoir too. They like to sip minerals out of the mud. There are quite a lot of those flying around. So here we go. We're headed north from the Pothole State Park up towards the dunes. Now when the water gets low, the dune area actually moves about 1.5 to 2 miles closer to the park. Kind of interesting. And a wonderful bird is a pelican. He can hold in his beak enough food for a week, but darned if I know how the hell he can. I think that was Ogden Nash wrote that one. Don't blame it on me. As soon as you land on the southern fringe of the dunes, it becomes quite obvious that you're not alone. These are deer tracks. It's lots and lots of animal tracks all over the place out there. Very fertile feeding area. Here's coyote and bird tracks all over the place. Naturally, all the animals go out there to attract predators too. Here we are at the first landing on the southern edge of the dunes, right on the main lake. I'm going to scout around for a channel and see if we can find a passage up in there. I climbed up to the highest part of the dune to look farther up and see if I could figure out a passage, a way to get in there. It seemed to be the best plan of attack, so we piled back in the boats and headed up. There's Lee just kind of walking around the surreal landscape, the strange mix of sand dunes and water. You can camp anywhere you want out here. This is all BLM land. Just looking back down lake towards O'Sullivan Dam across the main body of Potholes Reservoir. And we're kind of getting ready to try to penetrate into the dunes. Okay, here we go. We found a sufficiently deep waterway, so we're headed up into the heart of the dunes. Really much more interesting than it looks. A two-shot panorama here. The sweeping beaches and dunes form all these curves, and it forms like surrealistic landscapes. Yeah, it's kind of art made by Mother Nature. Now, a lot of times it's faster to portage over the little dry spots than it is to paddle all around them. And it's not much of a portage. You just drag the boats right over the top and you're good to go. This is the boat ramp on the second attempt we made to go up there. On high water season, the water would be all the way up to that sign. You can see the white high water mark right behind the sign. Up in the dunes again, how much sandy beach do you want? That's Lee poking around back there. That little tiny white dot in the middle of the screen. You got plenty of room to roam around. The tops of the dunes, some of them are flat, and this makes nice campsites. As long as the wind doesn't blow, you're pretty exposed to the wind. The windward side is steep. The downwind side is easy slope to land on. Any place the little channels neck down to a narrow point, there's always animal tracks in and out of the water. They know where to cross, and they move all around the area. Here's another one of the surrealistic, strange landscape things of the dunes. This is a two-shot panorama of the maze of channels and lagoons. This is a three-shot panorama looking way up into the heart of the dunes. This was about the deepest point we penetrated into. And this is the same shot with the standard one-shot thing. It's just really cool patterns in there. What a contrast. And there's Lee out poking around some more, just kind of walking around, grooving, enjoying the whole thing. Pleasantly warm, very nice. This was mid-September. And the birds like it too. Boy, there's a mess of cormorants, pelicans, snowy egrets, various assorted waterfowl, gulls, and who knows who else is in there. Millions of them. There's another one with a pretty doggone good batch of pelicans up on one end. Did see white and brown pelicans both. And it's now time to say goodbye to the planet Dune and move on to Lake Roosevelt, our next sea kayaking destination. This was really cool. I really enjoyed it.